For many people, debt doesn't start as a crisis. It starts quietly. A credit card balance that seems manageable. A student loan that feels necessary. A medical bill that arrives at the wrong time. At first, it feels temporary, something you'll take care of later. But then life happens. Prices rise. An unexpected expense appears. Income changes. And slowly, almost without noticing, what used to be a small financial obligation becomes something heavier. Something that sits in the back of your mind all the time. For millions of Americans, debt is not just about money anymore. It's about stress. It's about sleepless nights. It's about that constant feeling that no matter how hard you try, you can't quite catch up. And when debt starts to feel impossible, many people begin to believe something even more dangerous, that there is no way out. But that's not true. In this video, we're going to talk about what to do when debt feels overwhelming. How to regain control step by step, how to create breathing room financially, and how to protect your mind while you work through the numbers. Before we continue, I want to say something important. On this channel, I simply share what I've been learning along the way. I'm not a financial advisor, and I'm not a personal finance expert. I spend time reading, researching, and learning about personal finance and investing, and here I share some of those ideas and lessons with you. Think of this space as a place where we learn together, practical ideas, honest conversations, and strategies that can help us build a more stable financial life. So if debt has been weighing on you lately, take a deep breath. You're not alone. And more importantly, you're not without options. Let's begin. If you're carrying the weight of debt, you probably don't need anyone to tell you how hard it is. You feel it every day. In the letter you don't open, in the notification you silence, in that moment each month when the air somehow feels heavier. Debt is a reality for most Americans. 77% of households in the United States deal with some form of debt, whether it's credit cards, student loans, mortgages, or medical bills. And as the cost of living keeps rising, that pressure only grows. A recent survey from Forbes Advisor showed that the impact of debt goes far beyond money. It affects our mental health, our relationships, the way we spend, and even how we see our future. At first, debt feels practical. A balance here, a bill there. Something you'll deal with later. But over time, it stops being practical and becomes a constant presence. A background pressure that never really turns off. It turns rest into unease, makes small decisions feel like big dilemmas, and makes the future harder to imagine. What weighs the most about debt isn't just the number. It's the uncertainty. The feeling of being stuck. The way it slowly starts to shrink your world. Many people begin to measure themselves by what they can't pay, by what they haven't solved yet. And that's when the emotional weight becomes heavier than the financial one. When debt turns into anxiety and shame, the mind rarely gets a break. Even during calm moments, there's that quiet mental scan: what if something breaks? What comes next? What did I forget? This constant vigilance drains attention, patience, and energy. It can make someone more irritable, more withdrawn, more numb. Not because they're weak, but because their system has been in survival mode for too long. Then comes the shame. People in debt rarely think only, "I'm going through a tough situation." More often, they think, "This says something about me." And shame pushes the problem under the rug. It leads to silence, avoidance, and isolation, exactly what makes debt feel even more uncontrollable. Debt also changes how we relate to other people. Some people shut down, afraid of being judged. Others try to compensate, pretending everything is fine while feeling desperate inside. Some stop accepting invitations, not just because of the cost, but because of the embarrassment of having to explain. In relationships, debt can become a third person in the room. It shapes the tone of conversations, the level of patience, the sense of trust. Even when no one is arguing, there's an invisible tension: who's carrying more, who feels guilty, who feels alone with the worry. Many money arguments aren't really about money. They're about security, control, and the fear of letting someone down. One of the hardest things about debt is how it shrinks your sense of time. Instead of thinking in months or years, you start thinking about the next bill, the next call, the next due date. Life gets compressed into the immediate moment. And when that happens, hope can feel far away, not because it isn't real, but because the mind is too busy surviving the present. If you're feeling trapped, or like you've become a burden, that isn't weakness. It's a sign that you need more support around you, not more pressure inside you. In moments like this, connection matters. A trusted person who listens without judgment. Practical help that takes some of the weight off carrying everything alone. And if your thoughts start getting darker, if the idea of giving up crosses your mind, know that this, too, can be part of the weight. And you don't have to carry it in silence. Reaching out for help, talking to someone you trust, or calling a local crisis line can be the first step toward choosing support instead of isolation. Debt may have started as a number. But what it becomes is bigger than that. And to solve it, we need to look at the whole problem, not just the balance. Have you ever felt like, no matter how hard you try, you can't think about anything other than your bills? Like financial tension is always there, like background noise that never turns off. If so, know that you're not alone. And more importantly, what you're feeling isn't just about money, it's about the weight debt places on your mind. That weight has a name, debt stress. It's the emotional reaction that comes when bills pile up and the way out feels far away. Anxiety that won't go away. Sleepless nights. Trouble concentrating. Tension in your body. Debt may start in your wallet, but it quickly moves into your mind. The symptoms are real and varied. Some people live in a constant state of worry, wondering how they'll pay the next bill or what will happen if an unexpected expense shows up. Others feel such a heavy burden that sadness turns into depression. The body feels it too, frequent headaches, insomnia, muscle tension, digestive issues. Productivity drops, focus disappears. Relationships suffer, because it's hard to be present when your mind is consumed by debt. Many people start isolating themselves, feeling ashamed to talk about their situation. Others simply avoid the problem, they don't open the mail, they ignore collection calls. It's the mind trying to protect itself, but often making things worse in the process. Recognizing these signs is the first step. The second is understanding that this is not a personal weakness. It's a human reaction to a difficult situation. And just as there are financial solutions, there are also ways to take care of your mind while you organize the numbers. Let's talk about practical help. Because yes, it is possible to regain control, both financially and emotionally. The first step is to face reality directly. It can be scary, but it's also liberating. Take a piece of paper and list all your debts, credit cards, loans, financing, medical bills, any outstanding balance. Write down the total amount, the interest rate, and the minimum payment for each one. Seeing everything on paper removes the weight of uncertainty and gives you a concrete starting point. Next, create a budget. It may sound boring, but it's your roadmap. Write down your income, your fixed and essential expenses, and see what's left. Maybe it won't be much, and that's okay. What matters is knowing exactly where you are so you can plan where you want to go. If the situation feels too tangled, don't try to solve everything alone. In the United States, there are professionals who specialize in helping people with exactly this. A credit counselor, financial advisor, or even a debt attorney can make a big difference. They can negotiate with creditors, help consolidate debt, and show you options you might not see on your own. Take this moment to review your habits as well. Where can you cut back without hurting your quality of life too much? Maybe it's a forgotten subscription, one less food delivery, or a cheaper phone plan. Small changes can free up money to pay down debt faster. And even while you're paying off debt, start building an emergency fund. It may sound contradictory, but having even a small cushion prevents unexpected expenses from pushing you deeper into the hole. Start small, but start. If possible, look for ways to increase your income. A temporary job, freelance work, selling and used items at home. It doesn't have to be forever, it's just a phase. Every extra dollar is a step closer to freedom. Keep everything organized. Create a folder, physical or digital, for your bills, statements, and financial correspondence. Knowing exactly where things are reduces anxiety and gives you a greater sense of control. While you're organizing your finances, try to avoid taking on new debt. If possible, leave your credit cards at home or remove easy access to them. Living within your means may be temporary, but it's necessary. And if the situation becomes more serious, with the risk of legal action, seek legal guidance. A debt attorney can explain your rights and your options, including the possibility of personal bankruptcy if that becomes necessary. Finally, don't isolate yourself. Talking to someone you trust, a friend or a family member, can relieve a huge emotional burden. Sometimes we carry so much shame that we forget the people who care about us may be willing to offer real support, both emotional and practical. Dealing with debt is a process. It takes time, patience, and there will be ups and downs. But every step you take, no matter how small it seems, is a move toward control. Organizing your finances also organizes your mind. And when the mind becomes clearer, it becomes easier to breathe again. If this message resonated with you, consider subscribing to my Wealth Guide. Here, we talk honestly about money, debt, and the small decisions that can slowly rebuild financial stability. And if you know someone who might need to hear this today, share this video with them. You never know who might need a reminder that there is a way forward. Life has a way of surprising us. One day you're balancing your finances, and the next day you're dealing with a layoff, a medical emergency, or an urgent car repair. Suddenly, the budget that once felt under control collapses like a house of cards. And when that happens, choosing between paying your debts and buying food stops being a math problem, it becomes a survival decision. In moments like this, many people simply stop paying. Bills go past due, letters pile up, collection calls go straight to voicemail. It's understandable. When basic needs are at risk, debt naturally falls into the background. But this unofficial pause has consequences: interest keeps growing, credit scores drop, and stress multiplies. The good news is that there are formal ways to pause or reduce your payments without completely destroying your credit. Options that give you exactly what you need: a little time to breathe, without turning a temporary storm into permanent damage. Let's look at a few of them. Hardship programs for credit cards and loans. Many banks and credit card companies in the United States offer financial hardship programs. They exist precisely for situations like this. If you have a good history with the institution, you may be able to get a temporary reduction in interest rates, waived fees, or even a pause in payments for a few months. The process is simple: call them, explain your situation, and ask for help. Have documents ready that prove what's happening. Like a termination letter, medical bills, or any evidence of financial hardship. Approval isn't guaranteed, but if you don't ask, you'll never know. And it's absolutely worth trying. Nonprofit credit counseling. If you're dealing with multiple debts at the same time, a credit counselor can be one of your best allies. Many nonprofit agencies help people create a debt management plan, which consolidates payments into a single monthly amount that is often lower and more manageable. They may also negotiate with creditors to reduce interest rates and fees. It's not exactly a pause, but it can bring real relief. You continue paying, but with less pressure, and you prevent the snowball from getting bigger. Best of all, you can avoid bankruptcy or default. Debt settlement programs. If you're already behind and see no realistic way to catch up, some companies negotiate with creditors to accept a reduced lump sum payment as full settlement of the debt. In this case, you stop making monthly payments and instead deposit smaller amounts into an account managed by the settlement company. Once enough money accumulates, they use it to negotiate a settlement. Does it work? Sometimes, yes. But it comes with consequences. Your credit score will likely be affected, and forgiven debt may be treated as taxable income. Even so, for people who feel completely stuck, it can sometimes be a path toward resolution. Refinancing or consolidation. If you're not yet in crisis but feel one coming, you might still have time to act. Refinancing expensive debts, like credit card balances, into a personal loan with lower interest can reduce your monthly payment and give you more breathing room. Debt consolidation works similarly, combining multiple debts into one payment, potentially with a lower rate. But be aware, this usually requires stable income and decent credit. If you've already lost your job, this option may be harder to access. If you're still employed, it may be worth exploring. Forbearance for specific loans. Certain loans, such as federal student loans, mortgages, and some personal loans, offer forbearance programs. If approved, your payments may be paused or reduced for a period of time, often 3 to 6 months. Important, this doesn't erase the debt. Interest may still accumulate. But it buys you time. And when you're drowning, time can be one of the most valuable things you have. Just make sure you understand when payments resume and whether any accumulated amount will need to be paid later. Each of these options has advantages and drawbacks. None of them are magical solutions. But they all share something important: they are real alternatives to the desperation of simply stopping payments and hoping for the best. If you're going through a difficult moment, take a deep breath and remember this: you're not the first person to face this situation, and you won't be the last. The American financial system has programs, loopholes, and professionals whose job is to help people navigate exactly these kinds of challenges. Use those resources to your advantage. One step at a time. One phone call at a time. The important thing is not to let fear paralyze you. A quick note before we move on this channel, I simply share some of the lessons I've been learning throughout my life. I'm not a personal finance expert or a financial advisor. I spend time reading, researching, and learning about money, debt, and investing, and I share those insights here in the hope that they might help someone else along the way. In its simplest form, debt is just a number. An amount you owe. But anyone who has lived with debt knows it rarely stays just a number. It gets into your mind. It becomes a weight in your chest. And one of the heaviest feelings it carries is shame. Shame appears when we feel like we're not measuring up to the expectations of others, to society, or to the expectations we've created for ourselves. And when debt enters that equation, what started as a financial problem becomes a personal wound. It's no longer, "I owe money." It becomes, "I am a failure because I owe money." Suddenly it's about self-worth, competence, and your place in the world. And society doesn't make it easier. We grow up hearing that success means stability, money, and a comfortable life. Media constantly shows successful people, beautiful homes, organized lives. Between the lines, it often sends the message that being in debt means weakness, irresponsibility, almost a moral failure. In that environment, shame finds fertile ground. Even before you look at your own numbers, there are already voices around you suggesting that you should feel ashamed. The problem is that shame doesn't stay in the emotional realm, it starts shaping decisions. And decisions made from shame are rarely good ones. Someone in debt might avoid asking for help out of fear of being judged. They might accept high-interest loans just to cover one hole and end up digging a deeper one. They may hide their financial situation from a partner or spouse, creating secrets that slowly erode trust. Shame isolates people. And in isolation, debt tends to grow. The impact on relationships can be deep. Couples who could solve problems together end up becoming two individuals carrying the burden alone. Communication freezes. What could be, "How are we going to solve this?" turns into, what are you not telling me? Shame can turn partners into financial strangers. Mental health suffers as well. Anxiety, depression, and chronic stress often walk hand in hand with debt. That's not a coincidence, it's a consequence. What shame wants is for you to do nothing. To avoid the issue. To wait and hope things somehow improve. But avoidance never solves the problem, it usually makes it worse. As the saying goes, doing nothing is still doing something. It's choosing to let the situation deteriorate. Breaking the cycle of shame requires action. It can be a small action, calling a professional, sitting down to create a budget, admitting to someone you trust that you're going through a difficult time. There are professionals who understand financial trauma and approach these situations without judgment, and they can make a huge difference. After taking action on a personal level, there's also the power of community. Because shame is not only individual, it's also collective. It feeds on a system that tells people poverty is failure and debt is entirely their fault. In the United States, there are organizations like Debt Collective, a union of debtors that transforms individual burden into collective power. When people come together, the narrative changes from your personal failure to our shared struggle. And that can lead to real pressure for change, in policies, laws, and systems that create widespread debt. Because the truth is this, most of the time, debt is not about moral failure. It's about context. It's about economic policies, the rising cost of living, health problems that appear suddenly, and education systems that leave people heavily indebted. Recognizing this doesn't remove your responsibility, but it removes the unnecessary weight of shame. And without shame, it becomes easier to act. But even after you start acting, there's another enemy waiting: fatigue. Paying off debt takes time. And when it takes time, motivation can wear down. That's why a few strategies can help you maintain momentum without burning out along the way. First, create small rewards. Every time you pay off $1,000 or $2,000, celebrate it. Maybe a nice dinner, a new pair of headphones, or a relaxing massage. It's not about reckless spending, it's about protecting your mental energy. Spending $100 after paying off $500 can keep motivation alive. And motivation is what keeps you moving forward. Second, visualize your progress. Draw a thermometer chart, a grid, or a simple tracker. Color it in as you pay down your debt. Seeing progress on paper often feels more real than numbers on a bank statement. Visual proof that things are changing can sustain the journey. Third, if your repayment plan starts to feel suffocating, slow it down. That's not quitting, it's adjusting. A sustainable plan is far better than a perfect plan that exhausts you in 3 months. Fourth, find joy that costs nothing. I know people who start paying off debt and feel like they're no longer allowed to live. But enjoyment doesn't have to be expensive. Walks, picnics, community events, libraries. Building a life that doesn't depend entirely on money is a skill that stays with you forever. Fifth, always remember your why. Why do you want to be debt-free? Write it down. Be specific. Not just, I want peace of mind, but, I want to travel for a month without worrying about money, or, I want the freedom to leave a job that drains me. When motivation drops, revisiting your reason can reignite it. Sixth, focus not only on cutting expenses but also on increasing income. You can only cut so much before it stops helping. At some point, earning more becomes the real lever. A side gig, freelance work, teaching a skill you already have. Just be careful not to replace financial exhaustion with physical exhaustion. The goal is sustainability. Seventh, and this is important, repeat this to yourself: this is not forever. Debt has an ending point. It may take time, but it ends. People pay off six-figure debt every single day. It's slow, it's frustrating, but it happens. If you stop, you stay stuck. If you keep going, one day you'll look back and realize you made it through. 5 years from now, you might be free from debt, or you might be in the same place. The difference lies in what you choose to do today. And while you're moving forward, you'll be building things debt cannot take away from you: discipline, patience, and the ability to delay gratification. Those things stay with you. Those things become part of who you are. Debt has a strange way of making life feel smaller. It shrinks your sense of time, your confidence, and sometimes even your belief in what's possible. When bills pile up and the numbers don't seem to move, it's easy to feel trapped, as if your future has already been decided. But here is something important to remember. You are not powerless. You're not behind. Life doesn't follow a single financial timeline, no matter what social media or society tries to tell you. Some people start early, some people restart later, and many people rebuild more than once. There is no universal schedule for getting your life together. You're not incapable. Being in debt does not mean you lack discipline, intelligence, or responsibility. Often it simply means life happened: unexpected expenses, job loss, health problems, rising costs, or financial decisions made with the information you had at the time. None of that defines your ability to move forward. And most importantly, you're not stuck forever. You're in a financial storm. And storms, by their nature, are temporary. They feel overwhelming when you're inside them: the wind, the noise, the uncertainty. But storms pass when you keep moving in the right direction. Direction matters more than speed. Some months you'll make big progress. Other months it may feel like you're barely moving. That's normal. The key is consistency. One payment at a time. One decision at a time. One small improvement at a time. If there's one thing I hope you take from this video, it's this: clarity and action beat shame and avoidance. The moment you start organizing your finances, asking for help, and building a strategy, you're already changing the trajectory of your story. Progress with money is rarely dramatic. It's usually quiet, gradual, sometimes even boring. But over time, those quiet steps add up to something powerful: freedom. And if you're going through a difficult financial moment right now, I want you to know that you're not alone in this journey. Millions of people are working through similar challenges, rebuilding their finances step by step. Before we finish, if this video helped you in any way, consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video. It helps more people find this kind of content, and it encourages me to keep sharing what I'm learning about personal finance, investing, and building a more stable financial life. You can also share this video with someone who might be going through a difficult financial period. Sometimes the most valuable thing we can give someone is the reminder that there is a way forward. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of yourself, take care of your finances, and remember: step by step, things can get better. I'll see you in the next video.